Hello.
Hi, we are Doctors Jennifer and Jake Dean Hill, and this is the Doctors J&J podcast. We are so excited to be here with you today. We are both licensed therapists. We work together, we live together, we lead together, so we understand the challenges of being able to work peacefully and harmoniously together. We have come up with a simple, concrete solution. It's called Wear Two Crowns.
Wear Two Crowns is all about equity, learning how to bring out the strengths in each other, and learning how to share the power in the relationship so that we can all be better together. Each week, we're going to give you tips and tools and strategies and even personal stories to help you wear two crowns. And we're going to invite experts in the field of relationships that will help to educate us, inspire us to wear two crowns as well.
Yes. So tune in each week. We look forward to our time together.
Hello. Welcome back to the Doctors Jake and Jenn show, or the J&J show, I suppose.
Doctors J&J podcast.
Oh, I got to get that straight.
I know. We're still kind of new at this, but
Doctors J&J
we are
podcast.
back.
Yes,
So-
we are back. Today we're going to talk about connecting communication. One of the things that we deal with all of our couples, and I know we've touched before on this topic, but it is such a popular topic, we have to talk about it again. It is the single most important factor that people come to counseling for is communication. They usually, when we do our treatment goals, it's like, how can we help you? It is, we need to be able to communicate better.
Oh, by far, number one. If I could survey all the thousands of couples that have sat on my couch, they would say communication is our biggest barrier, our most difficult issue. So we're probably going to be talking about this topic a lot on this podcast
Yes.
because we want to help couples be better together. And
Yes.
I think this is probably where couples forget to leave their crown on the most. Like,
Yeah.
I think we struggle as couples to
Mm.
both wear our crown when it comes to communication
Mhm.
and do that well.
Right. So we have to establish the point of communication. And the number one thing that we need to establish is that intention, which is connection.
Which
And-
is completely new to me. I thought communication was to communicate information or to have a specific task or goal.
yes.
And so whenever I approached communication in the past, it was not anything about connection. And I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of men out there that would agree with me. Like, what connection? Like, this isn't communication is not for connection.
Well, I mean, goodness, I learn something new about you every time we do a podcast together. But I will say that, aren't you seeking connection when you're relaying information? Or does it even matter
Nope.
if it
No, there's no connection needed.
it does
Like, as long as you get the accurate information, accurate being the key, and you can go do whatever,
with
I
the
don't really,
communication?
yeah, I don't care if you're connected.
So it's just like downloading your information on me, and then it's really irrelevant if I understand it or if I agree with it.
No, you better understand it because that means it's not going to be accurate. And it's like I'm communicating to the yard guy that says, I want it mowed and edged, and I want these trees trimmed. It's like, I don't need a connection with that guy. I
Right.
just want him to get my
To receive-
message.
But how do you know he's received your message?
Well, usually you have them repeat back to you, or you get it in writing. And I'll definitely find out when I show up to my yard after he's done.
Good point. So it's either it's the work is done, right? Then you know
Work is done
there was a
how I
connection.
wanted it.
Right.
Yes.
Or like you said, that's a really great point too. There's a contract to make sure we understand each other.
Mm.
So I think that's a form of connection.
Okay. But I do think that men and women are very different when it comes to what actually connection is. And I think that's kind of why we're having this podcast, is because everyone has a different method or mode for communication.
Well, yes, but I think that sometimes we can be very efficient in our communication, which definitely you are very efficient in your communication, just like get
Try.
to it and get it done. Or we can be a little bit more relational, in our communication. But I do think both are connecting. I think of the military, right? They're not
Right.
making sure, hey, are we both understand each other? And does this really feel good to both of us? They're like going, here's an order, get it done. But if we're in two crowns and we're wearing two crowns, we have to make sure that we're hearing each other, we are receiving each other, and we're making purple, that kind of relational connection.
Right.
Would you agree?
I totally agree.
Okay.
But that's one of the things that I think a lot of men miss. And I think that's a big breakdown in communication
Yes.
in couples, because if my goal is to disseminate information and for you just to receive my message, and my goal in communication is not to connect with you and
Mhm.
to have a relationship that is better as a result of our communication, then we're both going to be extremely disappointed.
Right. That is very true. And I do think, though, that I see this on both sides. Doesn't even apply just to men or
No.
women. Yeah, I think I see basically there's the really relational connection where we feel very good and warm and we're like, we're in this together, let's move forward. There's that kind of connection, which I really enjoy. And then there's the connection like just give the information and make sure the task gets done. And if it doesn't get done, then repeat it a little louder and make sure it gets accomplished.
Volume definitely can help. And, I think of like certain bosses communicating to employees. Sometimes it's all about intimidation.
Yes.
Sometimes it's about shaming. Sometimes
Right.
it's about, just establishing power, control.
Mhm.
And it's not relational and it's not about connecting. And so I think there's a lot of models of communication that have a very different goal.
Yeah, I do too. That's a really good point. So there's different fuels for your communication, right? So we can all have the intention to connect, but there could be a different fuel where we're communicating by help making you feel small so that I feel bigger so that you will acquiesce and do what I want, which is that shaming, condescending communication. And then there's the intimidation. Let me just bully you and let me win. Then I will get what I want.
Right.
So with Wear Two Crowns, communication is all about connection where it's mutual. That and it might be done in different ways. There's times that you communicate to me in a very direct, clear way, and it's not offensive. It might not be very warm, but it's clear. And to use Brene Brown's quote, clear is kind, right, in your communication.
It's true. That's been a good thing to learn, is sometimes you don't realize how kind it is to be clear. And sometimes you expect the other person to just figure it out. And that clarity is not, that burden is not on you.
Right. And I do think it's important to depersonalize with differences in communication, right? So when you're
Very
communicating
much.
something maybe really directly, that might sound a little bit like you're giving me orders. I can choose to get offended by that, or I can choose to negotiate it. But it will break down the communication and the relationship if I just get hurt without saying, "Hey, could you give a request instead of direction?"
No, and I think that's part of what makes communication successful, is that we do get clear in our communication, in our expectations and our needs. But also, I think I see a lot of couples who are struggling with this. They are going into the communication saying, I want to win.
Mm.
I want to win this argument. I want to win with what I'm communicating. I want to come away on top, which if there's a win-lose in the relationship, then both end up losing.
Yeah, very true.
because there's not that connection and there's not that goal that says we want to make sure we're loving each other, connecting with each other, that the end of our communication, whatever it is that we are better as a result, as opposed to we have to recover from.
The communication or the style of communication.
Right.
So would it be fair to say that if connection is the primary goal of communication, then it's important that we learn our delivery with our partner to make sure that how we deliver our message lands respectfully and connects well with our partner. Would that be fair?
That's pretty fair.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing I have to remember, and I think sometimes I'm not always aware of this, is the fact that communication is not just words.
Just 7% words.
7%. I mean, I remember when I first learned that years ago, that how is that possible? But then I would give this example to couples in my office who were like, "Oh yeah, that's gotta be more than 7%." And then I'll give them this thing, and obviously, if you're only listening to the audio of this, you won't get this. But I'll do this thing where I'll make this sour face, and I'll go, "I love you," and I'll give this ugly tone and this ugly face, but the words I say are beautiful words.
Right.
Like, there's no better words than "I love you," but that's not the message. And so 93% of communication is tone of voice and body language. And so if you don't appreciate that and respect that aspect about communication, you're going to realize that your message and the connection is going to be off, because you're going to be saying "I love you" with a scowl instead of realizing like, oh, my 93% is communicating an opposite message of what my 7% is communicating.
Which is what we call a mixed message.
Yeah.
And when you give mixed messages, it is very difficult, if not impossible, for people to connect with you. When we do that exercise in our office, it is funny. We will illustrate that point, and people just kind of pause and they look at us. I'm like, okay, what am I saying? I love you. And people like, they kind of blink and they're very confused, and they're like, I say, what do you hear me saying? They go, I don't believe you. Right. So it proves our point every time, or it proves research that 7% of communication is words. So that means 93% is tone and body language.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Right. Yeah. So there you have it. New fun fact for you. And I'm trying to remember exactly the percentages of what's body language and tone. But I'm not recalling it right now.
I don't either. It takes a little bit of math for me to put it together. I just remember the 7%, 93, and it's kind of evenly split between tone and body language.
Right.
But I think this is something that we see quite a bit, not only in our own relationship, but in the relationships that we work with. Is I can say something to Jake like, "Get the groceries in the car," and he can go, "Oh yeah, I just got to get the groceries," or I can say, "Get the groceries in the car." Idiot. That's what it sounds like, right? I call it the idiot tone. And that is communicating, obviously, disrespect, disgust of your partner, and the connection is broken. And then there is a low security, low love, trust towards your partner, because you're getting confused about really what's behind me asking him to get the groceries, or telling him to get the groceries. What else is she feeling? Is she mad because she had to go to the grocery store by herself? Is she mad because she's doing it everything?
I never help with the groceries, and so obviously now I need you to help. And
right. A lot of times we're trying to interpret our partner's tones and body language. We would just want to encourage you, don't waste your time. Look at your partner and say, what is your message? What are you trying to say to me? Because I'm getting confused. I'm getting confused by what you're asking me to do to get the groceries, and the tone that sounds really hostile with that.
Right. And sometimes you don't realize that when you're being the one giving that tone, and you don't realize what's behind that. And sometimes when somebody just holds up the mirror to you and just says, like, did you mean to come across that hostile? Or, and some, if you're honest with yourself, you'll say, you know what, actually, I did probably say it that way because I'm irritated because the last 5 times I've been to the store, you haven't helped at all with the groceries.
Right.
And so I'm kind of, instead of expressing that clearly and kindly, of saying, hey, I need more help with the groceries from now on, I'm just going to bark at you and say, are you going to go get the groceries?
Right. Or say, I'm really frustrated that I have to keep doing the groceries all by myself. Can't you see that I just did all this? And can you please just help out and show some more consideration? I would really appreciate that.
Right.
I mean, that would be clear. It might not be so kind, but you don't want to hear that. But I mean, it's not easy to hear frustration from your partner. But we can still do it in a kind way that shows respect and shows respect to ourselves as well.
Which goes back to our goal. If our goal with communication is connection, then we'll pay attention to that.
Right.
If it's purely to send and receive information from each other, because literally the word to communicate literally means the sending and receiving of messages. Which is funny because I'll ask people like, hey, do you think you're a good communicator? And they'll go, oh yeah, I mean, I can articulate things like crazy. And I go, oh, but are you a good listener? And they're like, well, I'm not that good of a listener. Well, then you're not a good communicator. So you can't define yourself as a good communicator unless you're both a good sender and receiver of messages. And I always think of, what if couples just were sending computer messages to each other? Like, I need you to help with the groceries. Okay, I will help you.
I think you'd actually like that.
I would actually be good at that. You could tell how I just went into that
Robot mode.
that robot voice, because I think about that really is what our relationship would be if there was no connection. But the fact that we do have the tone, we do have the body language that is human, then you either get the connection or disconnection.
Yeah, that's good. So now that we've clearly talked about what connection is and how to make sure it's easily received, let's talk a little bit about what blocks good connection and then what builds good connection. Blocks and builds.
Perfect.
So the blocking, we already talked a little bit about the mixed messages. When you say one thing with your words and you say a different thing with your tone or your body language.
Right.
Then the other thing I would say, at least in our culture, is eye contact. That is huge if we do not look at each other while we're talking. And sometimes there's people that are better at that than others. And
I'm horrible. Eye contact is somewhat distracting for me.
I wasn't going to call you out.
I know, it's okay. I'm just going to put it out there. Like, eye contact is a struggle for me. And, part of it is just some of my own neurodiversity. But I think also because I'm working so hard to think and about what I'm trying to say, I have to kind of look away to do that. But the other thing I thought of is blocking is what John Gottman talks about is the idea of turning towards or turning away. Because I think most of communication are bids for connection.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it does seem like women do this more, but I'm not saying that that's probably too stereotypical, but it does feel like sometimes women are wanting to communicate as a bid for connection, and guys miss it. And I know I miss that a lot. But one of the things that in John Gottman's research is he's talked about how you have to pay attention to whether you're turning towards each other in that communication or turning away. And he has an example where the woman is saying, oh, look out the window and there's this beautiful sailboat. And if the partner kind of goes, yeah, whatever, okay. they miss that opportunity to turn towards and maybe come to the window and enjoy the sailboat with her, even if I hate sailboat.
Kind of like when we're driving by a construction site and you have to stop and look at the cranes and everything going on. My eyes start to glaze over and you start to get so excited talking about the building and how you could sit there all day and watch them.
And what they're going to build and how they're building it. And you could care less.
Yes, but you taught me the importance of just entering your world and just talking about things that are important to you. And I've learned so much. I've learned more than I have ever wanted to learn.
I know. And I realized that if I just said, hey, they might be building a TJ Maxx there, I would probably get your attention better.
Well, this is true. That might be something that'd be fascinating. But I have learned, and I've really come to value that. And of course, we've got our son, who is a mechanical engineer.
Yes.
Who's just brilliant. And I've learned so much. I always tell him if he can break it down, but I can understand this. Anybody can understand this, right? Because I'm so abstract thinker. But I love the way he talks about in his engineering, his complicated work that is just so amazing in what he does and how he breaks it down and explains it to me, and I'm able to capture it, and we kind of talk back and forth about it, and that has enriched my life,
Well, and it's been good for him to learn how to do that.
Yeah. So being able to hear each other's worlds, even if it's not terribly interesting to you,
right,
can increase connection. It will block connection if you just zone the person out and go, I don't want to hear you. So taking turns and hearing that's another great point as far as how to build or block connection.
And eye contact, you mentioned, obviously. But the other thing is reflective listening. And it's kind of the big joke when people talk about therapy. They're like, so what I hear you saying is, right? So we have this picture of sitting on a therapist's couch and they just are reflective listening to you. And it's just so wonderful and pleasant. And doing that in real life with each other feels so odd, but it can be so effective because that's why it's called reflective listening. So you're kind of just holding up a mirror.
Yeah.
And it's so much more effective to make sure you're getting the message. Right.
It is a game changer. If you can slow down the communication and just say, okay, so what I hear you saying, you got to make sure you don't say it with a tone like, so what I hear you saying is, right? You got to say it with a loving tone, like you're really working hard to listen to what that person is saying. And tell them in your own words. You will have nailed it when your partner says to you, yeah,
that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yes. They just quiet down and they immediately feel heard. So that is probably the most important thing in communication, is making sure you receive the message. The delivery is important, but the reception of the message, we are all can be sloppy communicators at times. But if you can really find what it is that your partner is trying to say, regardless of their delivery, now you have an opportunity for connection. And this is how the relationship can move forward. And then there might be, an opportunity for correction. Like, you yelled that at me, and I don't need to be yelled at.
Right. Or you
calmly tell me your message, I will be able to receive it better.
Right. Or you missed this part of my message.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it like being like playing catch, right?
Right.
When you catch someone's message, it feels really good before you throw your own message to them. And good communication is very much like playing catch.
Right.
And not just throwing balls at each other.
So true. So if you want to build the communication when it comes to listening, do the reflective listening.
Reflective listening, eye contact.
Turning towards, making sure that your tone and your body language, no mixed messages.
Right.
If you want to block the connection, do all the opposite, right? Do all the opposite.
Exactly.
And make sure you confuse the person. If you can keep somebody confused, you can keep them controlled. Keep them confused in your communication. then they're constantly wondering, how do you feel? What do you really want? I don't really know what's going on. One of the things that Jake and I will do a lot is to simply say, I'm confused. And then we work at really getting clarity right away so that we can have that connection and then we can move forward. So many times we operate in such a state of confusion. So when you're not getting the message and you're not getting the connection always lets you know what kind of connection you have or don't have, lets you know whether your communication is working or not working. So if you don't find yourself having a very loving, safe, calming connection, really look at those two parts. What are you doing as the sender? What is your delivery like? Is it done in love? Is there alignment? Are you giving eye contact? Are you asking for feedback? Are you open to, another perspective? That's huge, being open-minded to who that person is instead of just judging who they are. And then also, are you making sure that you're not blocking the communication?
Yeah. Awesome. And I think the other pro tip I have is, if you want to make sure you don't hurt your partner, make sure they feel heard. So if they're heard, they're a lot less likely to be hurt.
Ooh, I like that.
And so everybody wants to be heard instead of hurt.
Very true.
But they're kind of related.
They are very related.
And when people don't feel heard, they're often feeling hurt. And so having that as a goal that says we want to hear each other, and that's where I want to focus on that part of communication, is the hearing, right? Mm-hmm. 2 ears, 1 mouth. Mm-hmm. I mean, classic. But, and realizing that communication is not just about sending a message or information like a computer.
Yes. And I would say probably the superpower on communication is empathy. To be able to listen to somebody and empathize where they're at. What does it feel like to walk in their shoes when they're frustrated, instead of being hurt by their delivery of their frustration or message, or, armoring up with shame and not connecting through the communication, but to really work at listening. What is the message? And then express empathy. And I know when you do that to me, it totally takes the steam out of me. And I just find myself going, yeah, he gets it. He gets it. He hears me and he empathizes with me. And again, just a quick refresher, empathy. What does it feel like to walk in somebody's shoes?
Right. Yeah. What does it feel like? And so many times we're not utilizing that superpower in communication, where we're just, like I said, that's because we don't have the goal of connection. We just have the goal of, I want you to hear my message. I don't want to understand you and your message and how this is coming across to you, how you're receiving this.
Right. So, in closing this out, I think this is great to reference to what we use in our communication when things start to get a little cattywampus or things go sideways, or we're just missing each other's message, we're taking offense, or we're creating confusion, we're just getting aggravated, or we're angry or tired or whatever. But to just really stop and do the teams approach, right? Which
we've talked about in a previous episode.
Right, yeah. Right. Teams, which is TEAMS. Is this timely? To ask your partner, is this timely? If they're angry or it's 2 a.m, it's not timely.
Right.
Don't do it. Nothing good comes out of that kind of conversation.
Is it a good time? Yeah.
Is it a good time? E, empathy.
There's the empathy.
Bring empathy. A, admit your part in what's going on, and whether you've been provoking or enabling or whatever, admit this is what I've done that hasn't made this work. And then M is to mediate something that's a win-win, making purple.
Right. And then you'll get a solution.
S.
So no, it's a great tool. We use it a lot. And when we don't use it, we should have used it. So let me give you a crown jewel for today. And the crown jewel is, communication will make the impossible possible, but only if you use the secret weapon that we're trying to accomplish connection as the goal. So that's the crown jewel. Make sure that connection is connected to communication.
It's the true intention of communication.
It's the true intention of
I like it.
communication.
It's beautiful, honey. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We just loved being able to talk to you about communication. And let's live, love, and lead better together.
Awesome. Make sure you give us a like and follow and send this to someone you care about who needs help with their communication. We'll see you next time.